Alrighty, welcome everybody back to another episode of the Ball Knower Podcast Team Preview Series. I'm your host, as always, David Miller, joined today by three very special guests. I'll let them introduce themselves in a moment, but if you can't tell by their jerseys, we're going to be talking about the Los Angeles Chargers today. I've even got my Mac jersey on I got to represent. So, for starters, just start with Mike. Go ahead, introduce yourself, plug your stuff, all that kind of good stuff.
What's up, everyone? I'm NFLMike. You can follow me on TikTok at NFLMike. Biggest Chargers fan that you'll find other than the two gentlemen on the screen with me already. So we got all the biggest Chargers fans in the world right here. And I like that jersey. That's a nice jersey. It's a nice historic, something to really reflect upon when you think about Khalil Mack.
Yeah, absolutely. Ethan, go ahead and let you go next.
What's up? My name's Ethan. I'm the host of From the Backseat, which is pretty much on all social platforms. It's just From the Backseat. We're our own podcast, so go listen to it. You guys might have seen us on TikTok. That's where we're our biggest.
And then Tyler.
All right. I'm Tyler, aka Tyler Dub Football. You can follow me on TikTok. You might know me if you've probably seen it on your For You page. I am the Make-A-Wish kid who got to meet Justin Herbert last March, I think it was. Yeah. I've been a Chargers fan for about a few years now, and I'm really excited.
Awesome. I didn't even know that was the thing, if I'm being totally honest. I didn't know you got to meet Herbert. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was like a few days after the Khalil Mack trade, too.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I remember I got to meet Tom Telesco, the general manager, too. And he signed me to a 1-day contract. He's like, oh, yeah, I don't want to give you too much considering we just traded for Khalil Mack.
That's pretty cool.
That's funny.
My job is done, is what Tommy said.
Yeah.
All right, well, I guess we can start there just to get it out of the way. I can live through the pain real quick, and then we can move on. You guys traded for Khalil Mack, and arguably the biggest move any team made this offseason. So, obviously, you got to be hyped about it. Mike's got his jersey on. But what are your thoughts on it? How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I'll go first. I'm pumped, man, because especially seeing what the division did after the Khalil Mack trade. Russell Wilson's now in Denver. We already had the chase down Patrick Mahomes twice a year for 10 more years to go. So that is key to have a pass rush that can get after quarterbacks in this division going forward, especially in the next couple of years where it seems like the competition in the division is going to be as high as we've ever seen it. So getting Khalil Mack is key because now Joey Bosa is not going to see triple teams. I literally saw Joey Bosa eating tackles, guards, and running backs on plays and still making the tackle on the play somehow. No more of that, because if you do that, then you got someone one-on-one on the other side with Khalil Mack, and I wish Alex Leatherwood some luck with that.
Fair enough.
Okay, yeah, I can just imagine that.
To add on to that, to me, the Mack trade is absolute no-brainer from the Chargers' perspective. He was only $7 million more than Uchenna Nwosu got. Uchenna Nwosu was a serviceable player, but ultimately didn't give it done enough for Joey Bosa. And Khalil Mack just gives him that extra speed off the edge to be able to get to the quarterback.
Absolutely.
When I first, just like my initial reaction to the Khalil Mack trade kind of has stayed the same. I was just, in class freaking out about it. My friend next to me, he was sitting next to me. He's a Bears fan. I'm just like, dude, check this out. It was just unreal. I came out of the school just running out at full speed. And, I immediately made a TikTok shouting some profanities. I will admit I probably should have controlled myself there. You get two high-level edge players, then that completely just changes everything up for your defense, because then you got a whole bunch of stuff you can do for play calling wise, and it's a lot harder for the offense to manage around that. Now we'll probably see a lot of 2 tight end sets running against the Chargers, something like that. A lot more and it really does Khalil Mack, he's not just this great pass rusher, he's also arguably the best run defending edge in football, and that's something the Chargers really struggled with last year. Yeah. Making Rex Burkhead look like prime LaDainian Tomlinson. I think that game's pretty that game does not really sit well with us. We're still kind of recovering from that. But, I mean, and also even scheme familiarity too. I mean, he's worked under Staley before, so it won't be like, just bringing in someone who's not entirely familiar with the scheme. And, his veteran leadership and everything, I felt like this was a really great move, even for both sides, even because the Bears managed to clear up some cap and the Chargers kind of got elevated to another window of Super Bowl contention.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that last point you made, just from a Bears fan perspective, is something a lot of people have failed to realize, is that Khalil Mack had to go. Like, there was no world where Chicago was able to hold on to him. I was very happy we traded him, even though, the thought of Khalil Mack leaving after what he did for this team sucks. But I think another big thing that a lot of people have overlooked is Khalil Mack's injury issues over the past couple seasons. Even if he's been playing through them, which has been the case, he's kind of struggled a little bit. And I think going to the Chargers is perfect for him because there's so many guys on that defensive line now, especially after adding Sebastian Joseph Day, that you just have to give so much attention to where Mac isn't going to get double, triple, quadruple teamed every single play like he was in Chicago. And he's not going to be on the field near as much because the Chargers have a competent offense that isn't just going to go 3 and out every play. So I think this is the perfect destination for Mac. Obviously, him and Bosa probably are the best edge duo in football right now. And I think both sides definitely benefited from the trade.
Yeah,
I can't complain as a Bears fan.
I completely agree with that, David. I completely agree with that. And a lot of people talk about Khalil Mack's injuries. What also is going to help out Khalil Mack a ton in LA and why it's a perfect fit is how much depth the Chargers have at the edge rusher position now. They also brought in Kyle Van Noy. They had Chris Rump developing, who's put on like 15 pounds of muscle in one season. So they already have multiple guys that can relieve Mack in situations where it's like, hey, it's, 2nd and 15, Mack, take a play off. Come on out. You don't have to play every single play.
Yeah, because Lord knows he wasn't getting any of that in Chicago.
No, he was out there, high volume.
He was out there, but he still took plays off. I'm going to tell you that right now. Maybe it'll be different now that, like you said, they've got the depth. He's not going to be on the field as much, but he's a guy that likes to take a play or two off, so be advised for that.
They should be smart about it. Go ahead, Ethan. Go ahead.
Oh, what I was going to say is, to add on to the injury thing, Brandon Staley's the perfect coach to bring in an injury-prone player because we had the least amount of injuries in the league last year. He doesn't let veterans play in the preseason. He does snap management. He makes sure that veterans are staying healthy and that they're not getting injured, which was the absolute plague that was upon the Chargers organization under the Anthony Lynn era.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It also just seems like, just hearing the way, I remember hearing Austin Eckler in a press conference saying that his approach to modern techniques health-wise has really helped the team. And, you really saw the difference. They were pretty relatively healthy, I'd say, last year. I mean, it wasn't like, I remember it was just 2016. I saw like an IR list and had like 24 players by mid-season. I mean, like it definitely felt different. And I feel like, just he's kind of the guy who will be able to, eliminate that issue or at least make it better. Something like that.
I think we only lost O'Day. That's the only person we lost for the whole season last year.
Yeah, and Bulaga week 1, I think.
I don't really.
Yeah, Bulaga, whatever.
Did he ever play?
He played 4 games as a Charger. It's not really that.
Was it really?
Yeah, he played 4 full games.
Interesting. I mean, I knew he was always banged up. I knew he didn't play a lot, but 4 games across how many seasons? Like 2?
Just
3?
2.
2, okay. Okay, that's not as bad as I thought then. I thought he was there for a little bit longer. But yeah, Bulaga is a injury-prone, unfortunate case at this point. But yeah, with Mac, like I said, perfect situation for him to end up in, given his history over the past couple of years with injuries. And I don't want to say looking lazy, but just not giving it 150% every single play like he wasn't in Chicago. So Chargers were the perfect spot for him. And then the other big addition you guys made on the D-line, hopefully to neutralize the existence of Jerry Tillery, is Sebastian Joseph Day, who I would argue is probably the second best run defending interior lineman in football. It's between, obviously Aaron Donald's number 1, but I would say he's very close behind. So how do you guys feel about that signing?
I'm excited for that as well. Same thing. We just keep beefing up the defensive line to help get after these quarterbacks again. And now we can have some faith that we have something stout in the middle of the field, because last year the biggest problem is, we're going to give up run. We're going to give up running plays still. We're going to give up rushing yards still in games. That's the weakness of the defense. That's the weakness of the defensive scheme. But now you have a little bit more faith in the middle of the field that it's not going to be like that Texans game, and it's not going to be like the Raiders game, the final game of the year, where all they have to do is hand the ball off. There's not much game plan that needs to go into playing our defense, because we got Sebastian Joseph Day and we got Austin Jackson, who graded out as one of the better run-stopping interior defensive linemen last year as well. Yeah, Jerry Tillery's got to step up this year, because the Chargers showed this offseason, like, we'll move on from you, bro. This is his contract year. If you don't do something that's worth a contract, then you ain't getting a contract. It's that simple. It might get traded at the deadline.
I don't know about that. I don't think he has many suitors, to be quite honest.
That's true.
What would you get for Tillery at this point? He's so worthless.
It'd be like a N'Keal Harry-esque trade.
Yeah, honestly, kind of similar.
Becoming a buzz.
But to add on about Sebastian Joseph Day, I mean, it'll really add to the Staley defense. I mean, the biggest question mark with Sebastian Joseph Day and why he didn't get the top money that the other D linemen were, like DJ Jones, is the Aaron Donald effect. There's so much you have to go into. Having Aaron Donald next to him, you just have to play a guessing game of what his production is going to be like without him. But I have no doubt it's going to be there, because he has Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa on either side, whichever way, if he's lining up as a 5 technique or a 3 technique. So he's going to be able to play that interior defensive line and help us stop the run. Now, just like NFLMike said, we're going to give up running plays. That's how Staley's scheme is designed to work. It's designed to not give up the pass. It's designed to let teams get 3 yards on the ground and get to 4th and 4 or 3rd and 4, and then we stop the pass. That's the whole scheme. So Charger fans just know there's still going to be a running issue. It's just not going to be nearly as bad as last year.
Yeah. I like this for the same reason as like the Khalil Mack trade. I mean, it was the same thing, worked under Brandon Staley, got to bring him over. You got to bring the players that you trust. And, Sebastian Joseph Day, it's even more than that. I definitely do think he's a quality player. He was a key cog in the Rams defense back in 2020 when Staley was the defensive coordinator. That was just the best defense in all of football, indisputably. I mean, obviously you got Aaron Donald and Jalen Ramsey on that. So it's pretty much as if, just with those two alone, you can get a really good defense out of that. But I do think Sebastian Joseph Day was a pretty underrated part of that defense. And I definitely do think that his impact was just noticeable just from what I've seen. And I mean, I do also, as a person, he seems like a great locker room presence. I mean, I do definitely think that this was a good move, and I feel as if it's probably going to play out. And like you guys said, I mean, it's still going to be a weakness, because that's just how Staley's scheme is. But I feel like, the more players you get to minimize that weakness, the better Staley's scheme is going to work. And it's not going to be like last year where, it's just absolute massacre in the trenches, just almost week after week after week,
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, and you can call me old school for this, you're going to win every ball game in the trenches. Like, it's integral. And the Chargers completely revamped what they have going on with their front four. Adding Khalil Mack and Sebastian Joseph Day, who, like we've said, are two of the best run defenders in football, even if it's still going to be a weakness with the type of scheme Staley's running, it's not going to be near as bad. We've already said that, just because of how impactful those two guys are. And they're going to be taking snaps away from Jerry Tillery, who is like the worst run defending player in all of football. So they definitely did what they needed to do. They found the two perfect guys for what they needed this offseason. And I would argue, at least up front, they turned run defense from one of their biggest weaknesses to something I expect to be a strength for this defense. Not as a whole, obviously, with the scheme and whatnot, but at least from the front four, it'll be one of the biggest strengths of the defense. And then continuing on with free agent signings, you brought in 2 corners with my boy Bryce Callahan and obviously J.C. Jackson. So just continuing on talking about how we feel about these free agent signings, I'm sure you guys are excited about them as well.
Yeah, you're noticing a lot of familiar additions by Brandon Staley, and you can really tell that unlike any offseason before, the last offseason, Staley was working with his head coach and Telesco was working with his head coach, Staley, and finding out exactly what he needs for the team and who are the best fits. Because when you look at who they brought in as far as the veterans, Khalil Mack, Bryce Callahan, Kyle Van Noy. These guys are all guys that have been playing in this game. These guys are all guys that are familiar running the same defense that he's going to run. And bringing in Bryce Callahan, bringing in J.C. Jackson, it just takes the defense to the next level. And those additions in the secondary are what's going to take the defense to a top 5 potential, because you're going to have the pass rush coming at quarterbacks hard, so you got to get the ball out quick. And you have J.C. Jackson, one of the better man corners, one of the more higher IQ corners in the league, with Derwin James, one of the best safeties in the league out there. Bryce Callahan, when healthy, one of the better slot corners in the game, and just Asante Samuel Jr., I think, is going to be phenomenal as well. Just a bunch of guys in the secondary that are saying, please throw the ball. Please throw the ball. I want to take the ball. So I'm excited for that fact that our secondary is beefed up, because honestly, and these guys can leave their opinion as well, if we only added J.C. Jackson and added 0 other corners, I would have complete confidence in the secondary. They also went and got Bryce Callahan, so pumped about it.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. I mean, to be completely honest, I think J.C. Jackson is actually a bigger addition than Khalil Mack, because I think J.C. Jackson is the number 1 corner the Chargers needed. For Staley's scheme to truly work, you have to have a shutdown guy. And J.C. Jackson is a top 5 coverage in zone and man coverage. He's just that good. He takes away the ball, which is what Staley wants. He's the perfect fit for the kind of scheme that Staley truly wants to run. And then Bryce Callahan, he's going to contribute in the slot. And what makes it nice is he becomes a movable piece, because we still have Michael Davis, who had a down year last year, but 2 years ago, he was playing at a Pro Bowl level. Incredibly good in the old Gus Bradley system. Came into the Staley, got a little lost, but hopefully this year he'll be able to take a step forward, show why he's paid $9 million a year.
Yeah, I think, along with the absurd narrative that Khalil Mack is just this super old, super washed up player, I think probably the another dumb narrative is that J.C. Jackson is this system corner. Like, I've heard a lot from the Raiders fans who, actually wanted him, which is actually kind of ironic to see how much they switched up on him like that. But I do think that J.C. Jackson is not just an entirely product of Bill Belichick. Did Bill Belichick assist in his development? Yeah, sure. But I think J.C. Jackson is just, that good, regardless of games against Stephon Diggs, regardless of, how much Bill Belichick contributed. I think he is the perfect fit, because Staley's scheme asks corners to shadow the number 1 receiver and just excel in man coverage. And that's who J.C. Jackson is. And so it was pretty, and even on the deal too, I'd say it was a really good, really team-friendly deal. And I feel like, there's obviously connection with Derwin James. I think that was the main reason he went there. So you already got chemistry there. And I mean, Bryce Callahan too. If Bryce Callahan stays healthy, I mean, I think you'll probably get good slot corner play out of him. I mean, I hope it's not worst case scenario. It's another Chris Harris Jr., where it's old guy from the Broncos comes and plays pretty horribly. God, I don't even like talking about him. But like, I do think that Bryce Callahan at this point is a little better. And you got a really good quartet of Asante Samuel Jr., J.C. Jackson, Bryce Callahan, and Michael Davis. And I do feel like, even the more experience too adding, because the defense was pretty young last year. And, when you're trying to implement a new defensive scheme with a bunch of young players, it just is kind of a recipe for a little disaster. But now you got vets who are familiar with the scheme. So I like both signings quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the things Mike said almost right away is Brandon Staley bringing in these guys who are familiar faces. You got to stick to what you know. And bringing over Mack and Callahan, who he was both working with in Chicago, and then Sebastian Joseph Day from the Rams, it's huge. It's huge bringing guys that already know the type of scheme you're going to be running. They're familiar with it. They've been around the block. They know how it works. And like we've said, Callahan, when he's healthy, he's one of the best slot corners in football. Unfortunately, he hasn't been that since he left Chicago. I mean, we saw a little bit of it, but he hasn't been himself. And the Mack wash narrative, first of all, I forgot that was even a thing because it's Khalil Mack. And second of all, even if he is beat up, he's not washed. We're not looking at prime Mack anymore. You're probably not going to get 2018 Defensive Player of the Year candidate Matt back. But if you get like 60% of that, that's a dominant football player that's going to help out your defense a lot. So building up the pass rush, building up the run stopping ability on the front four, and then the secondary, J.C. Jackson, you guys said it perfectly. I don't feel like I need to add anything there. He pretty much speaks for himself. Hopefully getting a healthy Derwin James back. This defense is going to be absolutely monstrous. It's going to be insane to see what they're capable of doing when everyone's at full capacity this year.
There's so many game wreckers. That's the thing.
Mhm.
There's so many guys that can make a game-changing play at a moment's notice. And when they're all together, it's like it feels like every drive now, I'm probably going to be on the edge of my seat waiting for a strip sack, waiting for a pick, waiting for something. But yeah, I keep telling Raiders fans this. You guys keep bagging on how old and washed Khalil Mack is, right? Let's say he's old. Let's say he's washed, Raider Nation. Wouldn't you take 75% of Khalil Mack right now? I'm just saying, 75% is still a hell of a football player. It's just keeping him on the field. As long as he's on the field, we're happy.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm very excited to watch the Chargers this year just because I feel like they're going to be a team that shows you how dominant defense can change a game. We haven't seen a big-name team like that also has a high-powered offense on the other side of the ball, and Lord knows how long. Well, I guess that's not quite true because we got the Buccaneers. Never mind. But either way, it's going to be a fun team to watch. Kind of like Mike said, there's just so many game wreckers on this team that can flip the entire momentum of a game on a single snap. It's just exciting to see.
But wait, before you move on from defense, one thing that I want to shed light on is everyone always loves to use, the Chargers linebackers are really bad. They don't have a lot of talent there. Doesn't measure up. That's the point of Brandon Staley's scheme. He doesn't want to play with linebackers. You'll see a lot of Derwin James playing up on the line in a linebacker role. We're really just going to play with a Mike linebacker, which is a middle linebacker, which will likely be Kenneth Murray or Drew Tranquill on the field, who both of them hopefully can be serviceable players because that's all you need. All the Staley defense requires is that linebackers come uphill and make tackles. That's all it needs, and cleans up sacks if they're needed. They're not going to ask a lot of coverage ability because they're going to have Nas and Derwin come down, which opens the door to our third-round pick, Woods, who's going to play the deep part of the field and be able to get some of those interceptions as he had the most picks in college football last year.
And they added more depth. They added Troy Reader, familiar with the scheme. Again, it's like this common theme that keeps going over and over and over again with every edition that we see. And also, hey, you doubters out there, you might want to be quiet before we go and get 58 also. Then y'all are going to be really screwed.
Yeah, I think Drew Tranquill is, pretty solid. He's a good blitzer. He's decent in coverage. Kenneth Murray, there's obviously some stuff there, but he's obviously had a lot of off the field issues and just stuff with injury. So maybe there's promise there, but overall, I would definitely agree with what you say. And in a nickel package, it'll probably be more like I think they could go to more 5-1-5 instead of 4-2-5. So.
I feel really good about Drew this year. I do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a very old school football fan. Linebacker is one of my favorite positions. So listen, I hate Brandon Staley because it works. He's showing the NFL that you can make it work without linebackers. And if more teams start to adopt that, it's just going to break my heart because I love linebackers so much. But you're right. It works. It's not a big deal. You just need one guy that can go downhill and tackle somebody. And if they can do just that, they don't need to do anything else. You're perfectly fine. When you have these versatile safeties like Derwin, who is practically every position on the field at all times, I would argue the second most talented defensive player behind Aaron Donald, obviously, when he's healthy. I'll put it that way. When he's healthy, he is. It's just not a big deal for them, unfortunately. So there's no holes in this Chargers defense. It's going to be perfect this year. And that's a scary thing.
I wouldn't say there's no holes. I would not go that far. There are definitely holes on the defense. It's just the problem with the Chargers defense right now is it's super top heavy. They have a lot of depth in a couple positions, but a couple injuries in the right places, and the Chargers are looking at starting Chris Rumpf on the edge, which hopefully can take a step forward, but it's not exactly where you want to be sitting.
Right. Yeah. That's a good point. I wasn't thinking about the depth. You're right.
And there's a lot of options at free safety, and we believe in Nas, but that's also a spot where if JT doesn't work out, we're completely reliant on Nas. We lose him for a minute, or if he is not playing up to par, that could be a weak spot too. But of course, we also have Derwin James to move over to the top at all times.
Yeah.
I'm looking at
sorry, but I'll just say one thing.
I think JT's phenomenal.
Yeah. Well, what I was going to say is Derwin's probably the biggest piece that if we lose, then
Exactly.
our defense doesn't work. So if you're going to talk about of like stars, if Derwin goes down at any point, the Chargers are going to be in a tough spot because he plays the star, and we don't really have another player who can play the star right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking, like, I don't know, linebacker is probably a pretty weak spot. I mean, if one of Drew Tranquil or Kenneth Murray goes down, you're looking at Troy Reader and I think it's like Amen Ogbongbemig.
Amiga.
Yeah, that's how
Bong
you,
Amiga.
yeah. I think that's it. I mean, obviously, like the defensive line depth looks pretty good. I mean, you've got basically there's going to be a lot of battle there between Morgan Fox and who's essentially a better Jerry Tillery. I mean, so the depth areas. I mean, you for safety, it's not looking great there, and linebacker, but overall, I mean, and corner maybe outside of Michael Davis, it's not great. So I do see your point a little bit, but I mean, I wouldn't say it's like just as top heavy as it was last year.
We
Oh,
will
for
be
sure,
healthy.
for sure.
We will be healthy for one specific game, though. I'll tell you that much. The
Oh,
first.
yeah.
We say that every year, and then we have some player who goes on the iron. I'm just saying, I've been a Charger fan long enough. I know what you're talking about. I've had so many players that I've been so excited for, and then training camp happens, and then a card comes out, and then it's over.
Like we had the Derwin James one, and we had Keenan Allen in the first quarter of the first game, but the Hunter Henry one killed me the most, I think.
Oh, yeah.
It was the Joey Bosa one, his foot injury through the first 9 games. That one hurt because that was 2018 where we went 12-4. If he was in some of those early games, we might have won that division, and Rivers might have gotten to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Poor Phillip Rivers.
We're on to the future now, guys. Come on.
Yes.
Yeah. Can't dwell on the
For
past,
sure.
but we are going to dwell on the past for a second because we got to go over some of the guys that you guys lost. And obviously, most of them you found replacements for, like Uchenna Nwosu, Khalil Mack, Justin Jones, if he was even that big of a part of your defensive line. I don't recall if he was or not. Either way, you got Sebastian Joseph Day in there. Jared Cook, you replaced him with Gerald Everett. Brian Balaga, like you said, he played 4 games across 2 years. Not a big deal. Michael Schofield, he had some solid time there. I'm trying to hype him up a little bit because he's on Chicago now. But, like, it is what it is. It's not a big loss. I think the biggest loss you guys probably suffered this offseason was Kaiser White, losing him at linebacker. And obviously, we've already brought up the fact that linebackers are not super important in this system. But Kaiser White's a damn good football player. And I feel like you would much rather have him than who are your linebackers right now? Drew Tranquil and
Kenneth
who's
Murray.
the other name? Kenneth Murray. Yeah. At least personally, I would rather have Kaiser White over those 2 guys. I don't know how you feel about it, but I would say he's probably the only loss that you guys suffered this offseason where I'm like, oh, okay. That's something to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I wonder what the strategy was with Kaiser Weiss negotiations. I feel like they should have nailed him down really early, which makes me lead to believe that Kaiser might have wanted to leave and go to I think he's from Philadelphia or from that area as well. But I don't know why he'd want to leave right now. This is not the time to leave the Chargers. But yeah, he was phenomenal last year, man. Came out of nowhere. The linebacker that we needed. I hope that's not my microphone. And he was in the linebacking room with Drew and with K9. And he clearly shined over both of those guys and clearly was a better linebacker than both of those guys. But like you said, scheme-wise, Kaiser did what he needed to do, and he just hit the ball over and over and over again, racked up the tackles, and he just was good enough in pass coverage to make a couple plays as well. I loved his fire that he brought to the game. That was my favorite part of his game. He's super fiery, really motivated, and a lot of those underrated players that didn't get picked in the first round have that fire to them when they start to break out, because it has to be a great feeling to see that your hard work paid off and you're starting to shine. And of course, it led to him getting a contract to Philly. I think it was $5 million for one really good season. Good job, Kaiser. Congratulations. Ethan, what's your thoughts on Kaiser, bro?
He was my number 1 re-sign. He was ahead of Mike Williams. He was so good last year. He had over 100 tackles. I would argue outside of Joey Bosa and Derwin James, he was the best player on the defense. He was easily the 3rd best player. He just made plays. He's a great blitzer. He's a great run defender. A lot of people forget that he was a safety back in college, so he just had natural great coverage ability. Yeah, I loved Kaiser White, and I think it's an absolute shame they didn't bring him back because he was only 1 year, $5 million, which in the course of what we signed people for feels like nothing. especially with still the extra money we have right now. Unless if we trade for like Deron Payne or someone, then I'll get over it. But I'm still bitter. He's such a good player. Philly should be super happy about that acquisition. I would have signed him to a longer contract. I think he deserves it. I think he's going to play up to expectations and get himself an even bigger deal next year.
Yeah. I think I remember just like saying Kaiser White's one of those players that kind of, you know, you look at the PFF grade and you're like, did they get this one right? I mean, it was like somewhere in the high 60s, ranked 15th out of 87. I'm like, I thought that was a little better. Like their whole scale, I mean, how they graded him was like he's this solid, all right player. But I thought like at his level of play, I mean, especially with what was around him, I felt like he actually, you know, was a damn good player and like was damn good at everything. And I was really hoping they would re-sign him, but you know, I was kind of expecting that it was probably a 50-50 or maybe even less of a chance, because I mean, at the final game of the season, they didn't really use him all that much, you know. And like it's just it was kind of like telling, kind of like that sign. And it's just a whole bunch of stuff, you know, about how Staley doesn't really value linebackers that much in his scheme. It was just like, yeah, I was kind of expecting it, but it was still pretty upsetting to me. I'm still rooting for the guy. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I really hope he has success in Philly, and he's still a player that I like, but I'm just a little bitter, as you said.
We lost our host. There he is.
Yeah, sorry about that. My Wi-Fi just decided to go out randomly. So
Oh, it's okay. You're back. Tyler just ended, so it was perfect timing.
It's still recorded. It's still recorded. Tyler's take.
Okay, great. So it didn't glitch at all for you guys. It just kicked me out.
Yeah, no, you were just kicked out.
Thank God. Okay, good. So moving on from there, I'm sure Tyler had wonderful things to say about Kaiser White. He's a very talented football player. But kind of like we already said, it's not a huge deal at the end of the day. This defense doesn't need a super talented linebacker or anything like that. It's just, like we've already said, if you can tackle, if you can get downhill, that's all you need to do. So I guess the next place we can go from here is to talk about this draft class. And I was a big fan of your draft class. I thought you guys did very well. You drafted, I would say, a generational talent in the first round in Zion Johnson. I'm a huge fan of his. And then the last pick you made, I'll save for here in a couple minutes because obviously I'm obsessed with him given the position he plays. But just starting with Zion, how did you guys feel about the pick?
Very excited about the Zion Johnson pick. When we came on the clock there, that's who I wanted them to take. There was a bunch of names that I was floating around just because of how good the team is. You kind of could go ahead and pick, you know, what is the best thing for the team. You don't necessarily need to be forced into drafting a quarterback, forced into drafting a receiver, or forced into drafting a left tackle like we were last year. So it was very exciting when they drafted Zion. I got to meet Zion a couple months ago now, and that dude is a monster. I didn't realize how big he was. He's like 6'8", just absolutely shredded. He is going to be a tank, and I cannot wait to see how creative Joe Lombardi gets with pulling him on poles to the outside and Eckler stretching the field or Isaiah Spiller stretching the field out. It's going to be a ton of fun to watch because he's super athletic as well. And when I met him, I don't know what I was expecting. I haven't met that many players in my life, but when I met him, he just seems like a real down-to-earth dude. He was walking around saying hi to all the kids. Like, that was like the most important thing to him. I'm like, this dude just got drafted a week ago, and he's already seems like he has a good head on his shoulders and he's focused.
Yeah, I mean, with the way that the board was lying, Zion Johnson to me was the no-brainer pick. I mean, I would have loved a receiver. I felt like one last receiver could have taken the offense up, but with the way that the board was sitting, it made no sense. There was no value right there unless if you went Burke, which, I mean, all the concerns about Burke right now in Tennessee are not encouraging. I don't believe a lot of that stuff, but I mean, it's not good to hear about your rookie. But Zion Johnson, hopefully he'll be a perennial Pro Bowl guard. He's going to play next to some really, really good players. Now, I would like them to switch up the offensive line and get Trey Pipkins or Storm Norton out of the right tackle position and move Matt Filer over there. But I understand the thinking of having 4, I would say, elite offensive linemen in the middle, and then just hope that you can use chips and blocks to help out your right tackle. That's the biggest, probably on the entire offense, the right tackle position is the biggest question mark right now. But Zion Johnson was a home run pick. He's going to come in day one, and it'll be kind of like the Rashawn Slater effect from last year. Obviously, Rashawn Slater plays a more important position, but Zion Johnson is just as good of a prospect as Rashawn Slater is coming out of college.
Yeah, I remember it was draft day. It was like the morning of draft day. I put on my story, I said, if the Chargers select Trevor Penning, I am going to jump off a bridge. Like, and then I remember Mike was in the comments saying, "Oh, but Penning might be the right pick," trying to slowly talk me into it. And I'm like, "Oh, I really hope we don't have this conversation in the future." But I remember just like pre-draft process. I'm looking at the film of all the offensive linemen because the Chargers might be addressing that right side, and I'm looking at Zion. And I'm like, okay, Ode Ibushi, he tore his ACL week 5. We don't know if he's going to come back. I mean, he was playing pretty good before then, but we don't know if he's going to come back to that level. So, if the Chargers could get him or move him to left guard for to get Filer out to right tackle, that gives them a whole bunch of options. And I'm just looking at Zion and I'm like, okay, yeah, this guy is a very, very good football player. And I feel like, the way he slid down the board was more because of positional value. Like some teams just prefer that, like taking, wide receiver or in this case, defensive lineman over offensive guard. And I mean, I get that guard isn't super important, but when you have like that caliber of player, I feel like he definitely should have gotten more attention. Even regardless of what position he plays, because like there isn't really much of many noticeable weaknesses to his game. And I mean, you have Slater, Filer, Lindsley, and Zion. That's a very strong quartet. And if Trey Pipkins' development is legit and he's he's a solid tackle, then that's a really good offensive line. I mean, you just gotta hope that right side is serviceable, and Herbert's going to get a lot of time to throw the football, and Eckler's got a lot of running lanes to go through. So I really like the pick.
Yeah, I'm going to camp on Wednesday, and I'm only going to cheer on Trey. Trey, come on, Trey, get some work, Trey Pipkins.
I cannot watch Norton again.
Hey, every report is that Trey Pipkins is looking better. So hopefully, I mean, nothing can be worse than Storm Norton last year. Storm Norton was just absolutely a revolving door. It had flashbacks to who was that tackle with Phillip Rivers for years? Do you guys remember him?
The guy opposite side of
Sam Tevy. Right? There was
it was opposite Sam Tevy. Sam Tevy was all right.
There was Russell Okung, but I don't know, in his last season he didn't play much. There was also Joe Barksdale.
Now we're back too far. It's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Rivers is probably rolling in his retirement grave right now, seeing all this.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing is that people they're like, oh, Rivers, it sucks for him. But the only reason that they can do this is because of Herbert's rookie salary right now. That's the only reason they can make these moves. I mean, the difference between Phillip Rivers and Justin Herbert right now is $17 million. And that's Phillip Rivers' contract from 5 years ago.
Yeah, dadgummit.
Yeah. Yeah, I was a big fan of the Zion Johnson pick for you guys. I'm with Tyler. I'm not a big Trevor Penning fan, so part of me was really worried that was going to be a reality for the Chargers because Mac is on the team now. I want them to succeed. I want this to be a successful team. And I was really, really, worried that Penning was going to be the option there for them. But you took Zion Johnson, who I think was the best offensive lineman in the class. I'm really a big fan, kind of like how Mike said, he's just a thick dude, real stout, but he's quick. He's fluid. He's patient. I mean, obviously there is, but like it's really, really noticeable that there's a very specific way he does things, and I love it. It's great. Zion Johnson, fun offensive lineman to watch, and I think he's going to be an absolute stud for the Chargers for a long time.
Throw Chris Jones right out the club.
Hopefully.
Yeah. I was going to say, if anybody can do it, it's him.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, the whole Penning thing, my take was that if they did have to draft tackle and they were going to go Penning, to trade back to around 28, 27 and take him. He went to New Orleans, right? That's where he ended up going?
Yeah, he went at 19.
19. So he wouldn't even gotten him.
No.
I'm happy with how it ended. I really am.
Yeah.
I mean, Penning would have been a great pick for a team that had time to rebuild. Like, for any rebuilding team, he would have been fine for because he has all the athletic ability but no technique. But for a team that's so close to Super Bowl contention, it was just like having Storm Norton out there. It wouldn't have been that much different rookie year.
You want that game? Yeah, you want someone that's going to step in right now.
For sure.
Absolutely.
I remember after the draft, Brandon Staley said in a presser, or it was one of Staley or Telesco. It was like, we didn't want anyone who was really developmental or had technical issues. I'm like, okay, that's a little bit of a not so slight diss depending, but yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
Slightly. And other guys, there were other guys available that needed development.
Yeah.
And Zion Johnson simply was not one of them. He's going to come in day one, be an absolute stud. If offensive lineman could win Rookie of the Year, he would probably be my early pick for Rookie of the Year. I think call me crazy, I think he's going to have like a Creed Humphrey type rookie year.
If there was no Jamar Chase last year, I sincerely think Slater might have won it. I think he might. He was so good.
No, Mac Jones would have won. He's a quarterback.
You're probably right.
Mac
You're
Jones
probably
would have
right.
won.
Okay,
Especially
but
after he hit that gritty.
Yeah, no,
he should have won it. Not
Rashawn
who's
Slater
going
was
to.
an all-pro. I mean, he's a great player in his own right.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, moving on with this draft class. We've already touched on JT Woods a little bit, and I think the consensus is we're all cool with the pick. We like it. We think it was a smart idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Needs to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Well,
Interesting.
I mean, it's a good pick. Like, I'm happy with him, but
yeah,
he's a depth piece for sure. I mean, it comes down to, I think that's what they're looking at, and they drafted a bunch of guys like this at the end of the draft. Some other DBs that are going to play a lot of special teams, but they want guys that are versatile. So I think they feel like JT is an athletic enough player to kind of move around the football field a little bit. He's not going to be covering guys in the slot or going outside at corner or anything like that. But when it comes to the safety spots, I feel like they feel like if they have to put him in the game with Derwin, they can rock and roll with those two because they're both kind of athletic guys. But Ethan is right. He's a depth piece. I mean, he's not coming in and starting. Yeah. He's playing a lot of preseason ball. That's what he's doing this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like a super impactful pick for this year, but it'll be an impactful pick for once we let Nasir Adderley leave after next year. Nasir Adderley's a free agent after this season, so he's the natural replacement. It's kind of like what the Bengals did with now they're letting Jesse Bates go, so they drafted a safety in the first round. It's kind of that idea. Like Staley will develop this player. He'll be able to take over that role for Nasir Adderley. He'll contribute in his rookie year, but just as a third safety, which is good depth, but it's not like a game-changing pick.
Well, I mean, it's the third round. You're not expecting a game-changing pick in the third round, especially when you have a team of this caliber where every position's pretty much already decided, So I agree. He's a depth piece, but he's a guy that you can get excited about going forward.
Yeah, hopefully.
I do think we did get a game changer. Was Isaiah Spiller third round?
Fourth round.
Fourth round? I think we did get a game changer in the fourth round, though.
Go ahead and talk about him then. I was just getting ready to say that's next.
I think Isaiah Spiller is an absolute baller. The only weakness in his game is he's almost a little bit too patient, where it's like he gets caught in the backfield a little bit trying to find the hole, and then all of a sudden he took a loss of 2 yards instead of realizing that there's nothing on that play. I need to just get 2 yards. But other than that, when this guy sees the hole, he hits it, man. And Zamir White went one pick before Spiller. And I feel like Spiller has the same power. Zamir White's like a downhill runner. He's going to try and run people over and outrun you to the sidelines. I feel like Isaiah Spiller's a similar runner to Zamir White, but he's got the moves. He's got the moves, and he's got that jump cut that we've seen so successful from, I'm not comparing him to these guys, but iconic running backs like Adrian Peterson and LaDainian Tomlinson. That jump cut can be powerful. I'm excited for Isaiah Spiller addition to the offense. I feel like they're going to use him to relieve Austin Eckler a ton.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, the Isaiah Spiller pick was an absolute home run. It's exactly the kind of change of pace that Austin Eckler needed. He has pass catching upside that'll hopefully be developed. He doesn't have game breaking speed, but you don't need game breaking speed when he's your number 2 running back. Hopefully he'll be able to develop into the number 1 when Austin Eckler gets up there in age, because at some point Eckler is going to hit a cliff, just as every other running back does in the league. But I love the Spiller pick. I think in the 4th round is great value. He was supposed to go in the late 2nd, early 3rd. I love the pick. He was my number 3 running back going into that draft class. I think he's a really good player. It makes perfect sense. He also, no one talks about this, but he also has upside in pass protection, which will be huge for the Chargers moving forward. Austin Eckler is probably the best pass protector of any running back in the league, or close to it up at the top. And so adding another guy that can come in and then run 2 running back sets to protect Herbert will just keep him upright and keep him open to be able to hit Josh Palmer, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams all down the field.
Yeah. I originally saw, some people about on Chargers Twitter, there was that certain percentage, they weren't a huge fan of it because his relative athletic score wasn't too high. I mean, I did understand that. I mean, they did kind of say that they were aiming to get a speedster to complement Eckler, but like, I feel like Isaiah Spiller, while he doesn't have that burst, I feel like he excels pretty much everywhere else to the point where it's like, yeah, you can. Where it's fine, and I do feel like he'll be a pretty good complement to Eckler. Definitely better than the Joshua Kelly and Larry Roundtree type players. And like you said, pass protection is pretty important because I mean Eckler, like obviously as good as he is, he was definitely talking about how later on in the season, it's just his workload was getting to him, and he was starting to feel it in his body. So that's going to be good for keeping Eckler upright. And, he actually has that guy who's going to step up.
He got way too much volume last year. He got way too much volume last year. Yeah. Way too much. I mean, I'm happy to see 20 touchdowns in the stat sheet, but when I have to go and look at the touches to get those 20 touchdowns, I'm not as happy anymore. It was insane. He was taking primary carries and as a receiving back. But what this is reminding me of and what it's shaping up to be, something that we've seen in the Saints offense with Joe Lombardi. I think he was a part of it. He might have been the QB coach for it. And tell me if you guys see the resemblance. Alvin Kamara, Latavius Murray combo.
Oh, I was thinking Mark Ingram, but that's okay.
Yeah, I mean, similar, but yeah.
Sort of
I can see it.
Zoom and boom. Little zoom and boom.
Yeah, I was a big fan of the Spiller pick for you guys. I mean, you guys all hit it on the head in terms of his pass blocking ability, which I think is definitely underrated with him. I think the big thing, he doesn't have that home run speed, but he's your second running back. I think it was Ethan that said that. It's not a big deal.
Yeah.
And on top of that, if you're a running back in today's NFL and you can do everything but have that home run speed, you're going to be good. And my favorite example of that as a Bears fan is David Montgomery, who was one of the better running backs in football. He's not super fast, but he's highly intelligent. He can hit the hole no matter what. He knows what he's doing out there. And Spiller, I'm not going to say reminds me of David Montgomery, but he's similar to him in that respect, to where he's not going to get out there and break off a 90-yard touchdown untouched, outrun the entire defense. But if you get him enough blocking and he can get to that second, third level without anybody getting to him, maybe he can hit that second burst and get into the end zone for 80, 90 yards, whatever. But he's an exciting player, and I do think it was a very, very quality pick for the Chargers, taking a running back in the fourth round that probably is going to see the field quite a bit this year.
Isaiah, if you see this video, no reaching the ball out over the pile on the 1 yard line, please. We don't want to see no Josh Kelly shit again.
That one hurt.
That was the worst play of the season.
That one hurt. Oh, that wasn't my worst play of the season, but that one hurt.
There's probably more that I'm not even.
What was yours then?
Mine was the final score of the Texans game. That was where I was like, man. Well, actually, no. The final was, so I was at the Raiders-Chargers game in Las Vegas, Week 18. It was probably Mike Williams not getting that one-handed catch in the side of the end zone, where we had come all the way back. It was about to be curtains, and he didn't catch it. And I was sitting right there ready to celebrate, and that one hurt.
And think about the narratives then. Instead of Herbert missed the playoffs, it's Herbert drugged the Chargers to the playoffs. Like, Jesus, that ending was crazy. I couldn't even believe what I was watching.
It was, it was crazy to be at.
Yeah, anti-Herbert narratives are so goofy. He's such a talented football player. Like, it's insane to me that people can really find a way to hate on that man. He's so incredible.
It's a fear. To hate from a place of fear.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I can get behind that.
Same way I hate Mahomes.
Fair.
Yeah.
Fair. But continuing on with the draft class, I'm going to be 100% honest. I didn't do a lot of homework on Ogbanya, so I don't know a lot about him. So if you guys want to tell me what I'm missing out on, please do.
Yeah, he's another depth piece. Yeah, go ahead, Ethan. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, he's just a D tackle. He's a developmental piece. He's just a big guy. He played for UCLA, 4-year starter. He really didn't have that much hype going into the draft. He's just another kind of space eater. He actually has a lot of upside as a pass rusher, which is really why the Chargers drafted him. But you're not really going to see his name for 2 to 3 years, probably.
I didn't think so, but I was curious if there was maybe something I was missing out on. Okay.
Was I missing anything, Mike?
No, he looks good on film, but again, like you say, he's playing at UCLA. It's not that UCLA is a small school, but it isn't against the most dominant O-lines in college football. But I do think that he has potential to make the roster for sure. Where they picked him, he's probably going to make the roster. There's just so much depth on the D-line. Like we still got Fiocco, we have Covington. Like we had these guys around. Wait, is Covington back?
Yeah, Covington was
back.
Yeah, like these guys last year they had to play a ton, and that's why the run defense was bad. But now they're third stringers. So, like,
Do you guys want to hear my hot take?
I'm ready.
Sure.
Go for it.
I don't think Tillery makes the roster. I think
I
can
Tillery
see
is
it.
cut.
He shouldn't.
I think I think they're gonna go with Fehoko because of his run stopping ability. I mean, he had the highest run stop rate of any player in the league last year. I mean, it was a minimal amount of snaps, but it's still a lot of progress. He's a young player, and I just don't think there's that much to Tillery besides for being a third down pass rusher. And they don't really need that now with Morgan Fox. Morgan Fox is probably a better pass rusher than Tillery is, plus he has run ability.
Yeah, and a little. I know a couple former Charger insiders now, Gilberto Manzano and Fernando Ramirez. I work with them on a bunch of projects, and they said last year even that the team loves Fiocco. Tom loves him. Bailey loves him. The D-line coach loves him. Everyone loves him. They love his attitude. They love his work ethic. They love his game. So that might not be too far off, Ethan. I don't know what they're going to do with Tillery.
I don't either.
Yeah. Albeit, I mean, in a small sample size, Breeden Fehoko did definitely shine. I think his run stop percentage was like, I mean, I don't know. It was second highest in the league, which is absurd. Great. I mean, yeah, obviously, number one?
He was number one.
He was one.
Yeah, it's just like, I mean, I know it was a small sample size, but, you know, that's definitely promising. I mean, and, you know, you got, well, there's two, you know, you got like, you got, I mean, everywhere else, it doesn't seem like there's much of a role for Tillery. So I could definitely see where you're going through. Back to Otito, I wanted to just like reference, I do think that there was one thing that, I don't know if you guys caught this on film or not, but, Chip Kelly is just so extra, man. I mean, he had Otito dropping it back in the coverage. Yeah. Like, what are you doing?
To be fair, I think in week 1, Bosa was dropping back into coverage, and then it didn't happen again the rest of the year.
No, they didn't.
Yeah.
Is it actually? We're going to cancel that one. That don't make no sense.
Yeah, there's a lot of that in the NFL now where they're trying to force these pass rushers to play in coverage. Like, they wanted to do it with Max so bad in Chicago, and it was just so goofy every time you'd see him try to bat down a pass.
Hey, as much as you say it's goofy, it works for TJ Watt. Watt.
Well, yeah, but TJ Watt's an exception.
The one and only TJ Watt.
Yeah.
It works for TJ.
Like, I know there's going to be some guys it works for, but the fact that they think every edge rusher in football can do it is a bit much.
Well, what's up next, Miller Football, is this Debo experiment. You're going to see it everywhere. Travis Etienne, Treylon Burks, all these guys, they're going to try it with all
absolutely.
Yeah, Joe Reed for the Chargers, baby. Up next.
It's the biggest dead narrative of all time.
Forgot that guy existed.
Throw that out. I'll take what we did last year. 5,000 passing yards. We'll just go with that.
Yeah.
Oh, Lordy. All right, well, continuing on with the draft class, just so we can wrap it up. We've got Jamari Salyer, Jasir Taylor. Is it Dean Leonard? Is that how you say that?
Dean Leonard, yeah.
Dean Leonard. All right, and then we'll save the last guy for last because I actually have things to say about him. These other three guys, obviously, they're just going to be depth pieces. Corner's probably going to play on special teams. Do any of them stand out to you?
Salyer might not be a depth piece. He might turn into a starting player. Okay. He was a third-round draft pick who, for some reason, just fell and just kind of free fell into the 6th round. He could end up being a starter depending on how they align their offensive line. He's a name to look out for. He's probably outside of obviously Isaiah Spiller. He's the most exciting out of anyone in this draft class besides for Zion Johnson as well.
He seems like a dog, huh? We'll see what they do with him. We'll see what they do with him because he can be a guy that could replace Filer if we bump Filer out to right tackle, I think.
For sure.
If they really do it. And they have Brandon Hymas also, who was a guy that was very hopeful to try and get into the starting lineup at the end of last year. Didn't really end up happening. But so those two guys probably are battling for the second guard behind Zion and Filer right now. So, yeah, he could end up being a starter. We'll see how camp goes. If he really shines in camp, like don't hesitate. Go ahead and move Fowler to right tackle. Let's solidify this thing.
Yeah, I was looking at, just Jamari Salyer. I remember, this guy is going up against Aiden Hutchinson and kind of locking him down, those guys. And it's just like, how did he fall all the way to the 6th round? And, most big boards I saw were like 2nd, 3rd. And I looked at it, and it's like his height, which is, normal for a guard, is the reason why he fell. And I'm like, okay, this is basically another Rashawn Slater where, he falls because of his T-Rex arms to 13 when mock drafts had him at 10. And if this is as good as that, then if Sawyer goes in training camp right away, then it's like, okay, Norton Pipkins experiment doesn't even need to happen. We can just move Fowler out to right tackle and we're good.
Yeah.
That was kind of my reasoning for saying that Sawyer looks to be like a depth piece. It's just, obviously I agree, on film it looks like he should have been drafted a lot higher. But if somebody falls like that, there's always a reason for it. And I don't think it's just going to be because of his arms. There's got to be something else that we're not aware of. And maybe I'm just kind of grasping at straws here to try to justify a player like that falling. Go ahead.
People were really wary of his transition from tackle to guard because he's never played guard. He was a left tackle for Clemson for all 3 years. And so people were really wary about that he'd have to transition because he does have really short arms. Like, this isn't a Rashawn Slater where it's a half inch shorter than the 32. His arm length is like 29 and a half. Like, he had to move to guard. And even though he showed tape that he could go with Aiden Hutchinson, there's a lot of Aiden Hutchinsons in the league right now. And so,
right.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the main question mark. People were just really wary of if he would actually be able to slide over and how effective he would be in the guard position.
Okay.
Gotta go to work. But I agree with you. Those other corners that they drafted, they're going on special teams. Those are our gunners right there.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. All right, well, that just leaves the most exciting draft pick, in my opinion. That is, of course, the converted running back to fullback, Xander Horvath out of Purdue, who was one of my favorite players in this past draft. No bias, obviously. Are any of you guys excited about him? Be totally honest.
I'm going to go and see him at camp as well this week. And I think that if he shines as an athlete and can be an athletic fullback for us, then it makes sense to have him on the roster. But then that's bad news for Gabe Neighbors. So anyone that likes Gabe Neighbors, sorry, Gabe. But yeah, it comes down to how athletic is he against NFL talent. We're going to have to find that out in camp and in preseason and all that kind of stuff. But doesn't he look kind of like a freak of nature, man? Like, this guy could play tight end, fullback, running back. He could do whatever you need him to do. Last year, the Chargers did use Steven Anderson in multiple different ways. So maybe that's what they're thinking, trying to get Horvath, that they're going to use him similar to Anderson last year.
Yeah, definitely.
Go ahead, Tyler.
All right. I mean, I definitely was a little I was also a little upset when Steven Anderson left, but I mean, you got a guy whose relative athletic score was like 9.7. I mean, which is absolutely absurd. And, if he can contribute just like in all these ways that I've been hearing that he's going to contribute, then awesome, I guess. I mean, I wasn't really expecting this pick when it happened. I was a little confused, but I mean, if it doesn't really seem like it's going to be a horrible pick. I mean, so cool, I guess. Yeah.
We'll do it.
Ethan, you want to add anything?
No, I don't have much thought. I mean, he's a fullback. In my perfect world, I know you would hate this take. Fullbacks are pretty much useless in the modern day NFL because most teams don't run power schemes anymore.
You're wrong.
Just wrong. They don't make that much of it, except for special teams and like playing like 10 snaps per game. So
yeah. Tell that to the 49ers. Tell that to Kyle Juszczyk.
That's one scheme. That's one team that uses a fullback.
One scheme that's getting widely adapted. Look at all the teams that are shifting to the Shanahan-inspired wide zone offense. Chicago's doing it this year. They just picked up a fullback for the first time in 3 years. It's happening. They're coming back.
And if we use Horvath, it's going to be similar to the way they use Kyle Juszczyk. It's going to be exactly the same. But the chances of that happening with, what was he, the last pick of the draft?
Yeah, he's
probably going to be a practice squad player. He's probably going to be a practice squad player. I don't know.
Listen, I really like what I saw out of Horvath at Purdue.
His tape is crazy. His tape is crazy.
I think he'll beat out Neighbors.
He's better than Gabe Neighbors.
Yeah,
I can guarantee that he's better than Gabe Neighbors. Without running the risk of turning him into a stereotype, He's very much like a hard-working, gritty, first guy in, last guy out type of high motor guy. He's very tough. He's always looking for contact. The only thing that's iffy with him is his run blocking needs a little bit of work. Obviously, transitioning from running back to fullback, it's a different beast. But like outside of that, he's perfect. He's a Mike Allstott inspired Purdue fullback. You can't get much better than that. I really hope the Chargers find a way to use him. Like, I know at the end of the day, their offense isn't quite equipped to be using a fullback heavily, but if they can find a role for him, I'm all for it. I really hope he does get playing time there because I think he can be a hell of a fullback.
He's a crazy athlete. That's what it is. He's just a big dude. We'll see. We'll see.
Listen, I'm optimistic. Okay, I'm excited for him.
Hey, keep an eye on him in the preseason. He's gonna get a lot of work, and he might shine.
Yeah, I'm not one to watch a lot of preseason football, but I'm going to be checking out the Chargers games just because of him. I'm very excited.
There we go.
All right, well, we've ran through the draft. We've ran through free agency. I guess we can just kind of glance over the roster, the things we didn't really touch on, starting with Justin Herbert. I guess I'll just open up the floor for you guys to go crazy because I'm sure you have some crazy, optimistic, insane things to say about Herbert.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I can't say enough good things about Herbert, man. We're going to see how much he improves this year because I think that his leaps from his senior year of college to his rookie year and from his rookie year to his second year, both were insane. And the next leap is like all-time level. That's the next leap up. And with the offense that he has and more familiarity in the offense that he's in, a slightly upgraded O-line, an extra running back now, Mike Williams comes back. I think Josh Palmer is gonna shine if he gets his opportunities. So the situation that we're in here is if Herbert gets better, which there's no signs over the last couple of years that he's not going to continue to get better, he's going to reach all-time levels. And in a 17-game season, I don't know about you guys, and maybe not this year, maybe the year after, I'm looking at records, man. I think he's going to be crazy.
Yeah, I mean, he has all the ammunition to play really, really well next year. They're going to get a lot more turnovers next year, which means he's going to be in the red zone more. So I expect his touchdown numbers to be up from what they were last year. The other thing is the numbers might look pretty identical to this year, but that could also be that as Isaiah Spiller is taking the load off Austin Eckler, which means they can run the ball in the red zone more effectively. So I think the Galaxies to Herbert, I would not be surprised if you're talking about Justin Herbert in the number one quarterback in the league conversation after next year. He's already in most people's top 5. Yeah, I mean, he has all the potential to take the league by storm.
Yeah. Going back to what Mike said about records, so one of my hottest takes for this season, I haven't posted on TikTok yet because I've already posted it on. Well, I've already told it to some of my friends, and they've all called me crazy for it. But I'm predicting that Justin Herbert will break the most passing yards in a season record set by Peyton Manning in 2013 with 5,509. I know that's a little bold. But I guess that's the whole point of it. You know, you gotta have fun. You gotta be bold. I mean, you're not a true fan if you're not that confident in your team. You know, if we're looking at skill wise, he's obviously one of the better quarterbacks in the league just in terms of talent. There's not really a noticeable weakness to his game. And this is the first time since I think it was like high school that he's going to be in the same offensive scheme. I mean, he's been alternating offensive coordinator since his freshman year at Oregon. And I think that'll be huge for him because he'll actually be focusing more on the parts at quarterback where he can improve on already to a much higher level than, he can focus on improving more than actually learning the offense. And because he actually has a year under his belt now. And I mean, he's got the weapons. It's a scheme. I definitely think it's very possible that he wins MVP. That he's my current pick now. Biased, sure, but that's just what I'm thinking. And the offense, I mean, he's going to be he was in the anchor of a top 5 offense last year. I'm fully expecting the same thing, Yeah, I mean, to add on to that, I met him. I'll just say that again, just because it's just kind of my character, But yeah, that's pretty. I mean, there's really not much good things to say about. Well, let me rephrase that. I mean, there's just not enough good you can say about him. He's just that good of a player.
Mhm.
I think it's gonna come out week 1. I think he's gonna have 5 touchdowns week 1. It's gonna be insane. They got a bad secondary in Vegas. The whole team's gonna be healthy, going at it. The defense is gonna be good. But David, you know what Herbert's first words were when they asked about how he feels about going into year 2 of a scheme for the first time since high school?
I do not. What were they?
He said, "I'm so glad because I felt lost last season."
Yikes.
What do you mean you felt lost last season? You didn't look lost.
I mean, maybe he's just so good that even when he's lost, he looks like one of the best quarterbacks in football.
That's the hope.
Yeah.
He's his own biggest hater, man. He's so humble about
That's true.
everything. I mean,
So-
his Madden rating, everyone was like, "Oh, it's got to be at least a 90. Why is it an 88? That's so low." And he's just like, "Oh, I think that's pretty generous."
Yeah, and
Yeah,
that's the only
so
time.
dirty.
That's the only time he's ever commented on an Instagram post before.
Really? Yeah, they did him so dirty in Madden. They had him below Dak, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's criminal.
I mean, Madden just was really bad all around. I mean, there's plenty. I mean,
Yeah.
Jamar Chase not being a top 15 receiver is utterly horrible.
Mhm. We could literally record another podcast just talking about how awful the fucking Madden ratings were. It was so bad. It was so bad. And I think Herbert got done the worst out of anybody, personally. Not putting him – well, first of all, putting him below Dak and not putting him in the top 4 or 5 is absolutely atrocious. The dude is such a talented football player. His arm is incredible. He makes throws that I can guarantee you no one else in the league can make, and that includes Mahomes. Even though I think Mahomes is the better ball player, Herbert's just got something about him with the way he puts touch on his passes. He can get outside the pocket. He can work. He's got all kind of like I think it was Ethan said earlier on. I keep forgetting who's saying what. He's got all the ammunition in the world right now, and the offensive line in front of him is incredible. He's going to have a really nice run game to rely on. The defense is going to be a lot better and help him out a ton. Herbert breaking the passing yards record, maybe a little bit of a stretch, but leading the league in yards I don't think is crazy. MVP I think is very possible. I think he's going to have a tremendous season this year.
To tell you the truth, I do not want Herbert to lead the league in passing yards. No quarterback has ever won the Super Bowl after leading the league in passing yards. So I would like him to be second, so then we can win the Super Bowl.
There's a first
Fair.
for everything, right? Who was first
Yeah.
last year? Was Herbert first last year?
I think
It was
Carr.
Brady last year.
Oh, it was
No,
Brady.
Yeah, Herbert was second with like 5,014.
Carr wasn't far behind them, wasn't he? Or was that just
Yeah,
like
no,
half the
Carr
year
was
he was
right
up there
around
and he fell apart? Okay.
Carr was kind of like fourth, I think.
Okay.
He ended up at 48 or 4,800 is where Carr ended.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I haven't looked at the counting stats in a hot minute. I don't remember who finished where.
You get some help with those yards, and your defense is ass.
Yeah.
Damn.
Sorry.
Anyways, moving on. We already talked about the running back room. Unless you guys want to add anything with Eckler, I think he's another guy that his talent just kind of goes unspoken. Obviously a fantasy darling and all that. But
Yeah, he's so good.
Yeah, he's a good player.
yeah. Now the wide receiver room, I do have one player that I want your thoughts on specifically, and that's Keenan Allen. Because the narrative right now seems to be that he's washed, or at least isn't the receiver he once was. How do you guys feel about that?
I have a question of where is this narrative coming from? Keenan Allen just had a 1,000-yard receiving season, 100 catches again. Nothing is slowed down for Keenan Allen. The only reason that this narrative exists is not because of his production; it's because of his age. That's it. And yeah, he's going to slow down eventually, but he's going to see a lot more one-on-one coverage the better and better Mike Williams gets, and the more involved we can get Mike Williams in the offense. We're hitting a point where it's going to start to flip, I think, and Mike Williams is going to become more of the one option. But when you look at what Keenan Allen can do and how clutch Keenan Allen is in the big moments, that's still the guy we're leaning on in the receiving room if we have to lean on somebody.
For me, Keenan, I wouldn't say he's washed. I just think a lot of receivers in the league have probably surpassed his skill set. I think when you're talking about Jamar Chase, when you're talking about those kind Deebo Samuel, AJ Brown, a lot of those younger players have just surpassed him just because they're so dominant right now. It's not a slight against Keenan Allen. He's just as good as he's ever been. It's just that he's kind of capped because he doesn't have game-breaking speed, which a lot of these guys are able to do. And so you don't see him in top 10 lists anymore just because of these guys have those kind of things. And you're projecting forward as Jamar Chase is going to be top 3 next year. You're going to see these crazy things. I think Keenan Allen is just as productive as he was. He still has all the stats. And the reason that narrative just exists is because you're seeing these young players come in, be dominant immediately, and you're kind of forgetting about the possession receiver.
Yeah, I think another reason why that narrative exists is because I think a lot of opposing fan bases aren't really a fan of Keenan Allen because he's a big trash talker. Mainly Raiders and Chiefs fans. He's been kind of, yeah. And I also, but I mean, it's still the same place. He's still a very good wide receiver. Like I think it was against man coverage, he led the league in like routes won by 50%. And he's still obviously just the defenses still give him quite a bit of attention. I mean, nothing's really changed. I mean, he's never really been that much of an athlete, but he's proven that you don't really need to be an athlete, and he's still held in high regard amongst players in the league. Like there's a lot of receivers, even the top receivers like Devontae Adams they all talk about how just good of a receiver he is, how good of a route runner he is, and even if he had a slight down year where his hands were a little inconsistent. I mean, drops are pretty volatile. I think we'll see positive regression in that area. I mean, really, I still think he's the same player, but like you said, it's as if it's just a lot of people have surpassed his skill set, but I still would hold him in a high regard, and that stance I don't really think is going to change for me unless he just completely falls off a cliff.
If we're giving Devontae Adams free reign to claim that Carr is a Hall of Famer, then I'm giving Julian Edelman reign to go ahead and say whatever he wants about Keenan Allen. Put him in the top 3 as much as you want.
Exactly.
Yeah, I agree with Ethan 100%. It's just a case of all these guys getting a lot better. We've had such an influx of superstar game-breaking talent over the past 2-3 seasons, and Keenan Allen has been incredibly consistent, but when you don't have that game-breaking speed, when you're not the guy that's going to completely take over and put up 400 yards and 3 touchdowns on 6 catches or whatever, like some of these guys can. I know that's a crazy stat line. No one's actually doing that, but you get what I mean.
Jamar Chase is.
Okay, fair. Jamar Chase is doing that kind of stuff. I forgot Jamar Chase is straight out of a damn video game at this point. But Keenan Allen is just I'm not going to say quiet. It's just his production feels very quiet, and he does his thing. He does it consistently. He's just very precise, very technical. I have a lot of respect for Keenan Allen's game personally because he's able to do what he's able to do without that insane athletic ability, without that insane game-breaking speed. So I think I don't like to use the term underrated because I think that's a very overused term by NFL fans to the point where it's pretty much lost its meaning. But I will say he's an underappreciated football player for sure.
I'm with you. I want it for Keenan so bad, man. I want them to have a couple great years while he's still, balling.
How old is he at this point?
I think he's
31.
Okay.
He's 31? I didn't know he's 31.
Damn, I didn't know he was that old either.
I think Bladen Kirk on TikTok said it best. It's like if I was a wide receiver and I was asked to study tape, my first player who I'd suggest is Keenan Allen because, he's proven that you don't necessarily need game-breaking speed. You don't need to be super tall. I mean, he is pretty tall, and you don't need to be this just incredible athlete, and you can win with just insane route running that really, I mean, it's pretty sustainable from year to year to year. So I don't really think he'll lose his touch in that area.
Absolutely.
I'm with you. Hopefully he gets in the slot more. I mean, he works the slot a lot already, but hopefully he gets to a point where he's a primary slot receiver at one point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, the other receivers in this room, obviously Mike Williams stands out, but some of these other guys like Josh Palmer, Jalen Guyton, was it Tyler earlier that brought up Joe Reed? Are these guys people need to be getting excited? Because I have done a little bit of research, but not near as much as I should have, if I'm being totally honest. So I'm going to kind of leave it up to you guys to talk about the rest of this receiver room.
I can tell you don't need to be excited about Joe Reed because he's probably not making the roster.
Yeah, there's a lot of depth there for Joe Reed to make the roster this year. But, I mean, JP5, someone to get excited about. He's probably going to be helping out Guyton, maybe overtaking Guyton for the wide receiver 3 spot. He's just kind of a jack-of-all-trades guy. He can go up and get jump balls. He's got the wheels to stretch the field, and he's pretty sure-handed. So I think that he could get some action. And then Jalen Guyton, the thing I like about keeping him around for another year at least is just a familiarity with Herbert. He's been with Herbert since his rookie year, and Herbert's rookie year, he had a lot of games where he had to rely on Jalen Guyton because they were doubling up Keenan because Mike was hurt, or doubling up Mike because Keenan was hurt. So I'll never forget the Buccaneers game. Jalen Guyton and Justin Herbert lit the field up his rookie year.
Yeah, Josh Palmer's the really only one other fans need to pay attention to. Jalen Guyton's good. He's just a deep ball threat. He can't really run any other route in the tree. But Josh Palmer has the potential to be one of the best route runners in the league. His feet are so fast, and he's able to move out of cuts really, really nicely. I mean, he played at Tennessee and just had a really bad quarterback situation. That's why he fell to the third round. And he has all the potential in the world. Just go watch the end of the New England Patriots game last year. You can see the jump ball ability. You can see the speed. You can see exactly why Charger fans are excited about him.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
I kind of find it interesting with Josh Palmer. I mean, you look at Keenan's skill set, it's the great route running and just being able to tear it up in the short to intermediate parts of the field. And Mike Williams' skill set, it's kind of just like, deep in the deep area of the field. You can just tear it up there and just every jump ball, like 50-50s are more 90-10s. But with Josh Palmer, it's kind of interesting because it's a bit of both. You can see both in there. And it's that really gets you excited about just his potential and such. And I mean, I've even heard just like from insiders that it's pretty clearly Josh Palmer's ahead of the wide receiver 3 race between him and Jalen Guyton right now. Because I mean, Guyton, while his speed, he's really the only like track star there. His hands just aren't that great. And like Ethan said, the only route he can really run in the tree is a deep route, but I mean, with Josh Palmer, you've got just all this potential, super underrated, super overlooked, even throughout the pre-draft process. And really just, I think that he is definitely a breakout pick and someone I'd be pretty confident on betting to get like somewhere between like 500, 600 yards this year, something like that.
One person we didn't talk about that I want to bring up in the receiver room is DeAndre Carter. I think DeAndre Carter will be a nice red zone contributor.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to be playing special teams mostly. He's a good kick returner, good punt returner. But if you go watch some of his Washington tape, he can run some nice whip routes that'll open the door to Justin Herbert being able to put the ball in the end zone.
I'm with you 100%.
Absolutely.
I was about to bring up Carter's name because I think that Joe Lombardi is going to get creative with him. We've seen him use like little small speedy receivers like that in New Orleans before, like Deontay Harris's and Ted Ginn's and all those guys. I think they're going to get creative with Carter, and there's going to be a couple packages just for him.
Yeah, I think, just like when Andre Roberts was picked up midseason, they were trying to run a few end arounds with him, stuff like that. I mean, and that wasn't really super effective, so they just kind of shifted away from that. But I feel like with DeAndre Carter, you're getting a lot more for the offense. So, yeah, definitely there will be more packages for that and some creative looks. Like, I want to say Deebo Samuel-esque, but like not quite,
Yeah, nowhere near the volume, not even close.
Yeah.
He won't be taking snaps from the running back position. They'll use him for end arounds and kind of quick handoffs and stuff, but not where Debo's taking snaps as a running back.
Yeah, those guys are great for pre-snap confusion because he's so fast that you got to keep track where he's at in the field at all times. So him motioning across the formation can reveal coverages and stuff like that for Herbie.
Absolutely.
Kind of like how the Chiefs use Mecole Hardman. Like Mecole Hardman just runs across, and we saw many times they run across, and Chris Harris cannot keep up, and he's wide open in the side of the end zone. You might see some of that in the Chargers offense.
Chris Harris, man. That's when I first realized JP5 was camp last year. They were doing one-on-ones, and for some reason, Chris Harris kept lining up on Josh Palmer, and he was getting destroyed. Palmer was eating him alive. Like 9 out of 10 reps beat him.
Yeah, Chris Harris is really bad.
Jeez.
Yeah, it's one of the cases where the analytics and the film couldn't be further apart. The stat sheet says, Chris Harris Jr. is a solid player. The film is just atrocious.
Yeah, Broncos fans, man. I think that when you talk about schemes, we talk about JC. Let's talk about Chris Harris. Now he left that scheme and was booty.
All right, well, the last position we haven't really talked about here because we've covered everything else is the tight end room. And they added Gerald Everett this offseason, and I think he's a solid tight end. We're in a kind of weird spot in the NFL where there's not a ton of elite talent at tight end. After the top 6 or 7, maybe 8 guys, it really falls off, and it's just a bunch of average guys. And Gerald Everett's kind of in that conversation. And you also have Donald Parham behind him, who I think is a guy with pretty high upside. I'm very excited to see what he can potentially do long term. So how do you guys feel about the tight end room?
I think that it's another move towards versatility. I think that Gerald Everett's probably going to do a lot of standing up and kind of a slot receiver type of thing because his strength is receiving. He's an upgrade from Jared Cook as far as a receiver just because of Cook's age and everything. But when it comes to the blocking, we're still going to see Trey McKitty and hopefully a healthy Donald Parham, praying for him to come back at full strength. I think all the reports are good so far for him. So I think that basically Everett's another receiver for us. He's playing the tight end position, but he's going to be in a lot of those close to the left tackle or the right tackle in the slot off the ball, and just an extra weapon for Herbert to get the ball to when we need to. And then in those big sets and on the goal line, we're going to see Parham and Trey McKitty in there again. I think that they really like Trey McKitty. He didn't get a lot of playing time last year, but it surprised me how many times I saw him in the game.
He actually did get a lot of playing time. He played about 50% of the snaps.
I didn't even know
throughout the last
high.
8. Yeah, throughout the last 8 games of the season, he played a lot.
Yeah.
He's a good player. Gerald Everett. The signing is because of his yak ability. The Chargers were desperately looking for somebody who could get yards after the catch that wasn't named Austin Eckler, because Mike Williams is kind of limited there. Keenan Allen is limited there. They just didn't have a lot of that, and so Gerald Everett provides it. Ran a 4.6. Everyone always talks about it. He has the yak ability, just hasn't really put it together because of drop issues. So hopefully he'll be able to get unlocked in this Chargers offense, especially when he's not going to be the focal point at all. He's probably Herbert's 4th or 5th option on any given play. So it should open up the field. Donald Parham, again, super big guy, has shown flashes, just hasn't been consistent. And then obviously got hurt, which was absolute tragedy. And all those Denver Broncos fans who are using that as a meme need to stop. That is so disgusting that they think that's okay. Yeah, they do it all the time.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
And then, Trey McKitty, really good blocking tight end, is developing into a pass catcher. So hopefully he can take that step forward. But he's a player to look out for.
Yeah. I think the tight end room is probably the most underrated group of the Chargers roster right now. I feel like, there's quite a decent amount of potential there. I mean, Gerald Everett, only real issue is he's had a slight drop issue over his career. But like I said, drops are volatile. We could see him improve in that area. And I mean, Donald Parham obviously has a pretty high ceiling, and he's in limited reps. Well, not really limited, but he's more second string. Like, he's shown some flashes, and Trey McKitty showed some flashes as a pure blocker. So I feel like you can get creative with that. And I mean, Jared Cook is another one of he was basically the Chris Harris Jr. of the Chargers offense last year. Oh my God. The amount of, times he ran the wrong route, the dropped passes, times where he basically just gave up on plays. It's like, you're a veteran tight end, dude. What are you doing? And I really hope that, that's not what happens this year with Everett. And I don't think it will, but like, I was just so frustrated. I was screaming at my TV whenever half the time he was getting thrown the ball to, man.
To be fair, I think he got injured, and he was playing through a lot of bruises and bumps and everything, because early in the year he was actually pretty productive. First 5 games, 6 games.
All right, well, last thing we have to do here, unless there's any players that we skipped over that you guys want to shed light on, anyone at any position whatsoever.
I don't know. I mean, we talked about the top 10 running back. We talked about the top 5 quarterback. We talked about the top 5 receiving core. We talked about the top 10 O-line and the top 5 pass rush and the top 5 secondary, right? We talked about all those?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think we got it all then.
All right. Well, that just leaves expectations for the season. I'm sure they're sky high. So I'll let you guys go first, and then I'll chime in with mine, because I'm sure I'm going to be slightly lower on the Chargers than you guys are.
What the? Yeah, but I got the Chargers winning the division, of course. I think that if we can find a way to sweep one of our division opponents, whether it's the Broncos, Chiefs, or Raiders, I don't know which one it'd be more likely to happen because they're all really good. But if we can sweep one of those teams, then that's our path to 13-plus wins right there. If not, 12 wins, still winning the division at 12 wins just because it's such a tough division. And hot playoff contenders. I mean, AFC Championship, Bills, Chargers, I'm here for it. Then at that point, it's a showdown, and we just got to try and win it because they're insane too.
Mm-hmm.
I have the Chargers at 11-6. I think they'll end up winning the division. I think they're going to sweep the Raiders. I'm really low on the Raiders, and I'll say FTR. Hate the Raiders, hate their fans. Any Raiders fan who come at me, you guys have nothing to talk about. Anytime you guys say like, "Oh, we won a Super Bowl before," well, congratulations on having 2 winning seasons since 2002. Yeah. So I think the Chargers will end up winning the AFC West. I think all these teams are really, really talented. I think the Raiders are going to end up with a losing record, but in my prediction, I have the Chargers ending at 11-6.
All right. 13-4, first place in the division, first place in the conference. Y'all heard it here first. I mean, I feel like, in terms of sweeping divisional rivals, I think it might be actually kind of Denver-ish who's most likely, because, I mean, Russell Wilson against 2 high defenses is not good, okay? Just looking at his stats against 2 high, which is what Brandon Staley runs, and now that he's got the personnel to run it, I mean, I definitely look forward to just, Staley having him in prison, making Mr. Unlimited limited. Yeah.
Was dangerous. That's funny. I have a sweep in the Chiefs.
Dang. Okay.
Oh,
I don't think
Raiders, Broncos, Chiefs.
But
Okay.
about the Broncos, I think the Broncos are actually the least likely that we sweep just because we travel to Mile High so bad. We are
That's
so
true.
bad whenever we play in Mile High. I just expect that we lose that game every year just because every single year it seems like we go into that stadium and lose.
Even against
Yeah.
Drew Lock.
Oh, my God.
I have to see this shit
Yeah.
one more time. I'm going to lose my mind.
Shit. I remember after that
We do play
game,
Seattle
Broncos
this year.
fans. Yeah. I remember
right,
just
well-
like
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I remember
Didn't hear
like after that game when the Chargers played the Broncos and choked that lead to Drew Lock. I remember seeing a whole bunch of Broncos fans pushing Lock over Herbert agendas. It's like that was probably the worst part. They're so delusional, man.
Yeah, we blew him out like 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
Log over. Oh my god, I can't even imagine thinking that, let alone actually trying to push it.
Yeah.
I was right though. I am slightly lower on the Chargers than you guys are. Unfortunately, I agree with Tyler. I think they're going to win 13 games, but I have them 1 game out of first place in the AFC West with the Chiefs going 14-3, slightly ahead of them. I'm a lot. I know.
You have
I'm
a
sorry.
14 and a 13 win team and leading the AFC West.
I do. I'm
So
not
what's the
very high
Raiders?
on the Raiders are at
Wait,
9-8. Broncos are at 7-10.
Okay.
I'm not very high on the Broncos at
Whoa.
all. I
That-
have
wait, so
very
you have
low
the-
faith in Denver.
That Russell Wilson trade is going to look ugly if they only win 7 games. That's going to look ugly.
That's
I
as much
just-
as they
I don't
won
know.
last year.
Is it
Yeah,
really?
That's crazy.
They won
That's
7 and 10.
I don't
crazy
know.
that you have a team.
Maybe I am a little bit low on the Broncos, but they just don't impress me. I don't know what it is. The receiver core doesn't impress me a whole lot. I like their running backs. Obviously, Russ is there. Tight end room, who's there? Albert O. I don't know how the hell to say his name. He could have a breakout, but like going from Fant to him, I think is a big downgrade. Their secondary, other than PS2, is iffy. Linebacker room is awful. I don't know. I'm just not very high on Denver, but yeah, I think they'll get the 5 seed, and then obviously they'll tear it up in the playoffs. Get matched up against like I don't remember who I would have the 4 seed being, but they'll get matched up against somebody, tear it up, go on, and I mean they could probably get the Chiefs in the playoffs and beat them. I don't know, but
That's
we'll see.
crazy to me that you have a 14 and a 13 win team at the top.
I'm so high on them and just so low on Denver. Here, hold on. Let me run through this schedule real quick to make sure I'm not like high off something, because maybe I am, and maybe I need to fix it.
Well,
Well,
it's
look at KC's schedule. Look at KC's schedule.
Well,
Yeah,
it's not
hard.
it's not that. It's just, man, you don't think the AFC West is going to beat up on each other as much as I think they probably will, because I would think the Chiefs are going to lose 3 games in the AFC West. And so
I just like
I don't think they're going to sweep the rest of that schedule unless if they sweep Denver and the
Don't know.
Raiders. That would be tough.
I don't know. The Raiders defense is lackluster. I don't know.
The Chiefs defense.
Maybe I need to. I don't know. I like the Chiefs defense. I like what they
What do
have
you
going on.
mean?
Wow,
What do you
okay.
like about the Chiefs defense?
Listen, that's a conversation for another time.
Okay,
but I like
okay,
what the
okay.
Chiefs
That's
have
Chiefs
going on.
Can I come back to
That's
the Chiefs?
Oh Lord, I can only imagine how bad that would go.
Who you
Yeah.
gonna have on here? Real cool dad?
I don't know who that is, if I'm being totally honest. I don't remember who I have coming on.
Jeez.
I've got somebody. I think I record that one tomorrow. Let me check real quick. But just while we're sitting here, because this is something I should know considering it's happening tomorrow.
Oh, geez.
I'm interested.
Yeah, I definitely need to go back and double check things though. If that's the reaction I got from that, maybe I am a little bit too low on Denver.
Well, it's not the Denver part that's crazy. It's to me that you have a 14-13 just because I think the AFC West is going to beat up on each other.
Well,
so I
right,
just don't
but
see them sweeping.
Part
the rest
of that
the schedule.
is Denver just being bad.
guess,
Being bad, being low on Denver.
Well, I think for KC to go 14-3, I think they basically have to go undefeated against the rest of the league. I have them going 5-1 in the division, and in hindsight, I probably should change that. I think they'll drop more than one game against the division. Who do the Chiefs play week 1?
They play the Cardinals.
I mean, the crazy thing about the Chiefs schedule is their first 8 games are against teams that all finished above 500 last year. And the reason that I don't have the Kansas City as good is, as much as I like those defensive pickups, and this is what I'll say about the Tyreek Hill trade, is the Tyreek Hill trade hurt him in the short term, is going to help him a whole lot in the long term. But defensive players don't transition into the NFL that well. Some of these corners are not going to be good week 1. They might hit their stride by the end of week 8, but I think we're going to see a situation where KC's like 3-5 coming out of that stretch. I think they're going to start low and have to continue up just because rookies don't translate as day 1 starters very well.
Talk about toxic TikTokers. If the Chiefs are 3-5, don't go to my page.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll definitely have to readdress it because now I'm looking at it in hindsight. I kind of threw that together very quickly. I'm not going to lie to you. So maybe I need to readjust some things. Okay. Yeah. But for the Chiefs tomorrow, I've got 3 guys who hit me up on Twitter, just 3 of my followers. And then I feel really bad. I'm going to butcher this poor kid's name. It's Pranav, I believe that's how you say it.
Pranav, yeah.
I believe that's how you say it. Yeah.
I'm Pranav's.
Yeah, I've got him coming on. Him and 3 of my followers. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Well, have fun with that.
Yeah. Have fun
with
delusional fans.
Ask them how elite Trent McDuffie is going to be. They're going to tell you. Trust me.
Oh, my Lord. I've got a guy who follows me. It's not one of the guys coming on, so I can talk shit about him. He is the biggest Trent McDuffie meat rider I have ever seen in my entire life. And the way this kid tries to get me to talk about McDuffie every 5 minutes is hysterical.
The only player on the Chiefs that I was a fan of is out for the year already. Justin Ross. He's already done.
Yeah, he is out for the year, isn't he?
I mean, started the season yet.
Poor kid. I hope he turns it around. I feel really bad for him.
So talented. So many injuries.
Yeah. So much talent, so much potential.
Yeah, and even if he one day decides, I've had a lot of injuries, maybe football's not my best interest. I just hope like he does good wherever, just like in the long run. I wish him the best, honestly. I mean, he was just that fun to watch, and he seemed like such a nice guy,
Absolutely.
Agreed.
All right. Well, unless there's anything else you guys want to add, which I think we already touched on and there wasn't, I think we're done here. I'll give you guys one more opportunity. Go ahead and plug your stuff just in case the people at the beginning forgot. Start with Mike and kind of go Mike, Tyler, Ethan, just kind of up and around on my screen.
Oh, yeah. It's just at NFLMike on TikTok. I'll guide you from there if you become a follower to the rest of the stuff and you actually like my content. But, yeah, biggest Chargers fan other than these 2 gentlemen on the screen with me. So if you guys are a Chargers fan, come follow my page.
All right. I'm not as big as Mike on TikTok, but
you are.
I got like almost 3,000. I'm Tyler Dub _football. You guys should go follow me there. Yeah.
I'm Ethan. I'm from the Backseat. That's the name of the podcast. Just go look it up on any social media.
Yep, and I'll make sure to include everybody's links in the description down below because Lord knows people are lazy and don't feel like actually typing it out themselves.
True.
But either way, thank you guys so much for coming on. I really do appreciate it. It's been a ton of fun. Hopefully the Chargers, I don't know, maybe do a little bit better than I expect them to, even though it's kind of hard to beat 13-4. But either way, ton of fun. Thank you guys again. And for everyone watching out there, make sure to let us know in the comments if you don't agree with what we had to say. Yell at us, yell at me, because I was probably the most casual out of everyone on here. Did a terrible job preparing for this one, I'll tell you straight up. But either way, just make sure you leave a comment down below. Tell us how the Chargers are going to do. Leave a like. We're doing a ton of these. It takes a ton of work to get everybody together to get the scheduling figured out and whatnot. So I would really appreciate it if you'd leave a like, show your support and all that. And for everyone out there, and you guys as well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, evening, night, afternoon, whatever time of day it is for you. I hope you enjoy it.